Welcome, everybody, to Ultimate Fantasy Football Show. It is Sunday, and you know what that means. It means getting your fantasy football lineup ready to go. It means checking the news and notes, the injuries, the updates, hashtag Ask Andy, Danger Zone picks, and some betting today, too, folks. We're going to bring in my guy from Las Vegas, Nevada, Johnny Avello, DraftKings Sportsbook Director. Get you ready for some prop plays, some hot tips, some betting angles type of deal as we get going and get really rolling for NFL Week 4. However, folks, I hope that you remember to set your fantasy lineup for the early London game. 9:30 kickoff. We're at half right now. Minnesota Vikings taking on the New Orleans Saints. And 13-7 Vikings up. Andy Dalton in at quarterback, of course. Jameis Winston out. You have no Alvin Kamara. And I got to say this. I was preaching. I was putting on social media. Make sure you check your fantasy lineup. So here's me, okay? I'm drinking my coffee. Just after, it's right at 9:30. I'm watching the pregame. It's like Alvin Kamara's out. Okay, taking a sip. Refreshing, right? Then I realize, hold on, Andy, in the 5 redraft leagues you're in, don't you have Alvin Kamara still in your startup? I panic. I rush to the keyboard. I go to make the swap. Too late. They froze the lineups. So despite me preaching, check and set your lineups. It even happens to me. I got distracted, and Alvin Kamara is sitting there with that smug profile pic look on his face, staring at me dead-eyed, and he's getting me 0 points. He's getting me 0 points. Kind of sucks. Really not great. A lot of injuries, though. For New Orleans, you had Michael Thomas out, of course, Jameis Winston. We said Alvin Kamara. So right now, Andy Dalton, being his efficient self, 8 of 9, 53 passing yards. Mark Ingram, 23 on the ground. Lone touchdown coming to Chris Olave. One of my guys, they said to must start, no matter who is that quarterback. Chris Olave, really in a great situation to ball out. He is there. Jarvis Landry has a couple catches for the Vikings. You got Kirk Cousins, 156 yards, 16 of 23, 1 tutty, 1 interception. Dalvin Cook on the ground, averaging just 3.4 yards per carry on 10 carries. You have Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson tied for most receptions at 5, 66 yards for Thielen, 42 for Justin Jefferson. So there you go. That's the latest on the New Orleans Saints Vikings game. Hopefully you got Alvin Kamara out of your lineups, unlike me panicking and just checking too much stuff, getting ready for the show, and happy. Really not great. I'm beside myself. I hate when that type of thing happens. But there you go. We still have a whole bunch of other games to get to. A lot of interesting angle, and I'll chat about this after we have Johnny Avello on, and actually a little bit with it from the betting side of it. Browns and Falcons. Myles Garrett will not play. Had that rollover scary car accident. Jadeveon Clowney is going to be a game time decision. There's 2 other starters on the Browns defensive line that will not play also. So interesting when you think about if you're looking for a last minute quarterback ad. I really like, and I brought this up in my waiver wire video on Twitter at AndyMC81, hashtag Ask Andy, early on Tuesday of, okay, who are you going to get at quarterback if you need someone off of waivers? And Marcus Mariota, using the legs, RPO a lot more, a real option there. And now we see the man himself live from Las Vegas, Nevada, Johnny Avello, DraftKings Sportsbook Director. Johnny, great to hear you again, buddy. How are you?
Andy, well, thank you. Very well.
Excellent. Well, hey, thanks for getting up. We have the Sunday morning game, the first London game of the season, cooking right now. Vikings and Saints halftime, going to be heading into the third quarter. Let's start really right there, because on the DraftKings Sportsbook and stuff, one of the fun things is you're able to do each half or during the game live props and things like that, right?
Yes. It's something we added this year, not only in-game wagering for the game, the total, the money line, but you're able to also play different proposition bets. Next touchdown scores, big, what will be the third play that the offense runs, those type of props. So they've been very popular. They're flash props, and people are loving them.
Well, I love it too, because then you're able to really almost play by play it, right? If you think you're like, okay, you know what, I know that it's going to be, and you can make those real time wagers, which is pretty fun. How has the action been on this early London game going into it, with it being at the 9:30 Eastern kickoff?
Yeah, they really did. The betters really did like the Vikings in this game. They took about 75% of the money, and on the money line, it was even more. So it was the Vikings were to play today. The Vikings have been a play, I guess you might say, for the first couple of weeks. It's a for some reason they've become a popular team on the DK network. So today, to start off the day early, we need this. We need the Saints. Right now, I know it was a close score at half. I think Vikes were up 6 points.
Yeah, 13-7. Vikings lead the Saints. And really, Johnny, when you look at it, the question marks going in and the plethora of injuries for New Orleans. You're missing the starting quarterback. There's no Jameis Winston. You're missing Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara was a this morning decision ruled out before kickoff. So I'm sure going in after that type of action, I wonder if we'll see at halftime some more money heavily put towards the Vikings based on those injuries and Minnesota being up.
Yeah, when the halftime line is up there, and they are they're, they are betting the Vikings a little. One thing, Andy, is that this game is kind of early for everybody.
Yeah.
Here I'm on the West Coast, and here it's quite early, 8 o'clock. On the East Coast, it's a little bit later, 11. But most people aren't used to playing football this early. So we've had a game in London every year, a couple games, and the betting public is getting used to it. The Jaguars always call that like their home field. They've been on there so much, but yeah, the second half is taking a little bit of action. Looks like more on the Minnesota side.
Yeah, guys on the West Coast, you got to just Irish up the coffee a little bit, get going, get that kick up, right? Let's go. Let's get it.
Exactly.
I'm looking here, Johnny. When we look, and part of the prop plays for today, NFL most bet anytime TD scores, so anytime touchdowns, which I'm a fan of those. When you look at those odds for anytime touchdowns, leading the way right now, looks like the favorite Jonathan Taylor, then Jalen Hurts, Devontae Adams, Nick Chubb, my guy from the Browns, and Jamal Williams. And Jamal Williams at minus 130, I think is one of the more interesting plays today, Johnny, because with Detroit, you're without Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're without DJ Chark, you're without DeAndre Swift, and Jamal Williams has really put himself in a spot to be relevant and part of the gameplay anyway. But now I think you take a guy like that and maybe even a TJ Hawkinson with all those players missing might be might be a smart bet.
That's the great strategy of betting football is, trying to decipher all the things that could happen in a game. So your analysis is correct. And of course, that's why we're seeing the money on that side. Jonathan Taylor, we're going on a year and a half now with Jonathan Taylor scoring, and Jonathan Taylor has delivered for the public. He's been solid. Seems to score almost every week. Maybe not the first touchdown. That's when he was getting bet, but anytime. And that's what the bettors really like, Andy, is this anytime. You don't have to worry about being the first. Just score anytime during the game.
Yeah, I love that one too, because then you're able to pick out the stars, but then you start again to look. Okay, if Jonathan Taylor's the favorite, then you sort of go down and try to pick away at those maybe situations where you can jump in. We got a lot of now. I got to say for the some of the prop plays for guys like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Now, Johnny, I would assume Josh Allen, people pretty confident in betting with him coming into the year after the season he's had in his career. But Jalen Hurts out of Philly, this is a guy I don't think he's been credited as as good a passer of the football as he should be. And he's really elevated that game. So when it comes to quarterbacks this year, for whether it's prop plays or whatever the case might be, who are some of the quarterbacks that maybe are rising and people should keep an eye on when it comes to trends?
Well, you're when you talk about Jalen Hurts, I would be one to criticize him, Andy. I loved him as a college quarterback. I loved his attitude when Tua T came in and he became the second string, then had to come back again when Tua T got hurt. But I didn't really think as a pro he would get the job done. But he's got some pieces there now. He's got a lot of good offensive players on ends and tight ends, and so it's and good running back, and it's working for him right now. We'll see if how far he can take this team. You talked about other players are taking action. They like Trevor Lawrence now. This team
Yeah.
maybe is starting to put it together. Lamar Jackson is a guy that's been bet for MVP. He can do it both with his legs and his arms. Uh, and it's there's other quarterbacks around the league that have been taken. Daniel Jones early, he'll probably cool off on him now a little bit. Justin Herbert, he's certainly a gamer. So there's a lot of quarterbacks, not only that have been bet for MVP, but on a daily basis for passing yards.
You know what, Johnny? And by the way, folks, in conversation with DraftKings Sportsbook Director Johnny Avello from Las Vegas, see some Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts action on the screen right there. Johnny, let's stick with the MVP voting right now, and you can find those odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Where, if you got it up in front of you, give us let's say maybe the top 10 or something, and what are some rising trends here? Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, earlier in the year, Joe Burrow was a bit down, and I still believe he can maybe turn it on a little bit. So take us through some of those favorites and those looks and the trends going into the MVP play.
It's mostly quarterbacks. Josh Allen's leading the way, and rightfully so. We mentioned Hurts. He's certainly gotten a little bit of action in this. Let's see. We had, Jones took some early, but he's going to cool off. And, some people thought that maybe Russell Wilson would start off with a bang. He has not. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that took quite a bit of money. Mahomes, of course, Tom Brady. So mostly this category is, bet on the quarterback end, because that is usually who brings this prize home.
Right. And you know what? The money and obviously, look, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady. No one's blaming you if you go before the season starts and you put a couple bucks on those guys. But that's been and more specifically, Rodgers and Brady really underperforming when it comes to those bets. And I take it to fantasy football as well. Fantasy football wise, underperforming. And really, you put some coin on the MVP, they're going to have and there's still time. But the last 3 quarters of this season, they're going to have to really pop. So maybe some guys, like you said, like a Jalen Hurts would be a smart play. And I still think, again, that Joe Burrow, I'm not sure where Joe's sitting at right now, but he certainly has the pieces around him to make a run.
Jacoby Brissett might have been in that conversation, but we know he's only going to play half the year. So that's a Matt Ryan has been terrible so far. So there's some of the quarterbacks we thought that might have a great season haven't started off too well. Now you mentioned Tom Brady, Andy. Tom Brady's getting a little bit older. He still gets the job done, but he's just not as efficient as he once was. And Rodgers likes to turn it on at the end of the year, although, missing his star receiver up there. He's still got some good guys to throw to, but, he hasn't looked like the Rodgers yet. But I think he will at some point get it going, and he'll be in that hunt. He'll certainly be in that conversation for MVP.
Well, I'm with you. It's a big adjustment, right? Because it used to be Aaron Rodgers would force feed Davante Adams. You knew he was throwing it to Davante Adams. The other team knew he was throwing it to Davante Adams, and he still threw it, and he still got like 10 completions a game. Now you have to redistribute and find that comfort level. And we've seen a bit of a feeling out process. Like Romeo Doubs has been a hot ad on fantasy teams, and as well as just gaining that confidence of Aaron Rodgers, who isn't afraid to speak out negatively against his receivers. So that's an interesting way to see, I guess, how this develops. And if, like you said, if Rodgers does turn it on at the end of the year. Now let's look at the rest of the Sunday slate, Johnny, and the Monday game here. What are some trends you're seeing, some action, some money lines being put on some of these games? Is there anything that's standing out to you early as we get closer to that 1:00 kickoff?
Yeah, there's some teams that really got hit pretty hard today. The Cowboys over the Commanders were bet pretty strongly. I guess they have confidence now in Cooper Rush. The Giants took quite some money against the Bears with a short spread. Raiders against the Broncos, they like them a bit. And the Chiefs at the Bucks. It's hard to believe that the Bucks have only taken about a little over 20% of the money in that game so far, being at home. But the Chiefs are always a popular choice. They just love this team and have loved them because let's face it, you bet the Chiefs, most likely you're going to be in the game at at any point in. Even if you fall behind, you have a chance to come back. So Chiefs have been one of the bigger bet teams for us on our network for the last few years.
Well, you mentioned it, and what I'm seeing right now, anyway, is a Tampa Bay just being a 1 point favorite. So pretty much a pick 'em is what we're.
Yeah, pretty much. That's you remember that Tampa last week against Green Bay was, they were also in the same situation, like a 1 point favorite at 1 point, 1 point dog at another. And I think the Packers ended up going off maybe 1.5 in that contest. So you can't give them too many points at home. I mean, they do still have a lot of star players there, but the confidence level on the Bucks right now is not as high as it may be later on in the year, and we'll see. If that comes to fruition, where this team, is a huge contender for the Super Bowl championship.
Johnny, a couple more for you here. Now, this is a question I always try to run through my head. When is the point spread too high? And in college football, you see sometimes like 50-point spread, and you can get those ridiculous scores. But in the NFL, while you do get blowouts, of course, the game that's standing out to me, Green Bay, 9.5-point favorites over the New England Patriots. It's in Lambeau. We just talked about Aaron Rodgers and him sort of feeling out that offense, not the high-octane team we're used to. And the Patriots, no matter what, as long as Bill Belichick is breathing and standing on that sideline, they're going to be a tough out. Now, you don't have Mac Jones, who wasn't lighting necessarily the world on fire, but Brian Hoyer has been in that system, can be a competent game manager type. Is 9.5 too much? Like, I'm getting that kind of feeling in my stomach. I'm like, I think the Packers are going to win, but I don't know if I want to be putting 9.5 on them.
Well, us bookmakers, we react to what we believe the numbers should be as far as power ratings are concerned. And then, the public money will tell us where we need to be on that line. Now, when you look at the money on this game so far, the Packers have taken about 70% of the money on the spread and about 90% of the money on the money line. As you mentioned, you believe they're going to win the game, and so does the general public bet, and the entire betting public actually. So if this game was Patriots 80% of the money with the spread, then we'd probably drop it down a bit to maybe 9, 8.5. But that's not the case here, Andy. So we have to hold at the number. May even go higher. We'll see. What the public thinks as the day goes on.
And now I know, Johnny, that I've said that the Packers are winning by 35 points today. I know it. They're gonna absolutely light up the Patriots now that I say that.
I don't
Johnny,
think so.
Let's do one more.
Yeah, 35 is a big number, Andy. I don't think so.
That'd be a bit much. That's a bit too aggressive. Yeah, that's one of those off strip sports books you don't want to go to. Yeah. Let's talk about my Browns here for a sec, Johnny. Yeah, Cleveland 1-point favorite into Atlanta to face the Falcons. Now, the big picture here, and you have to keep an eye, of course, as the game approaches, but no Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney questionable, 2 other starters on that defensive line. So you have that effective front unit of the Browns missing pieces. And what that means is Marcus Mariota, who has been brought back more to his college comfort level with RPOs and moving the ball. If I'm looking at prop plays, Johnny, when it comes to, let's say, Marcus Mariota rushing yards, which I believe on the DraftKings Sportsbook has set at 31.5 rushing yards, as well as just the surrounding pieces that might usually be contained by those edge rushers or tough front lines, I think the Browns are going to win the game. But for prop plays and fantasy, I'm thinking Marcus Mariota makes sense. Cordarrelle Patterson's been on fire, and the surrounding pieces. Atlanta might be a sneaky play.
That's exactly how you're supposed to handicap a game. When you're handicapping the NFL slate, you go right down and you look at the spread. You see if anything stands out to you. You do your research on who's playing and who's not playing. And then you go through all the other menus that are associated with these games. And you look at player props and you use a strategy on, well, this isn't going to happen, so maybe this should happen. That's exactly how you're supposed to handicap games, props, and everything associated with the NFL slate. So I like your thinking. And, there's a lot of bettors out there that think like that, a little bit different twist to it. Everybody has their own way of doing it, but exactly the way you're supposed to look for some sort of value in a game somewhere, somehow.
It's going to be an interesting one. Okay, Johnny, look, you've been very generous with your time. Always appreciate it. But tell people DraftKings Sportsbook, you can do it all over the place. You got the app, you got the site, and all. And like we talked about, in-game wagering. Tell us a little bit about it before you go.
Yeah, in-game wagering is the growth of the sport. Once the game kicks off, that doesn't mean the wagering stops. The wagering continues, not only with the money line and total, but all these other props that we continue to put up. I think a lot of times in in-game wagering, you couldn't find the right number before the game started, but once the game started, maybe your team was down 3 or down 7, and now you actually were getting more points than you were trying to get before the game started. And I don't think the first drive should ever change your mind on a game. So, look for the value not only prior to the game, but in-game wagering, because I think that's where you'll find it a lot of times. In-game wagering, the growth of the business.
I'm totally with you on that first drive too, Johnny, because those are the orchestrated ones. They have that game script, and you'll quite often see a perfectly executed first drive, offensive drive by a team. Like, wow, they're going, and then after that, things might fall off a little bit. So I think that's a great point with the first drive. Don't let that necessarily dictate your in-game wagering at DraftKings Sportsbook. Johnny, always love chatting with you. Let's do this again soon. Thank you.
Okay, Andy, have a good day. Have a profitable day.
Yes, you too, sir. Profitable day. Yes, absolutely. All right, Johnny Avello, DraftKings Sportsbook director from Las Vegas, getting up early with us to talk about the trends, some plays, some in-game wagering, and all that fun stuff there. DraftKings Sportsbook, folks, real easy to use if you're able to in your area. Lots and lots of fun there. Update on, let's see here, the Vikings Saints game. Vikings have picked a field goal 16-7 up on the Saints, who are just, man, that offense is cooked. Except if you took Chris Olave, like I advised throughout the week on Twitter at AndyMC81, hashtag AskAndy, and on the Twitter video on Tuesday. Olave really separating himself. And Andy Dalton is somebody, again, who can be efficient and get you where you need to go if you need to. Okay, we're going to have my danger zone picks. I want to hear your danger zone picks as the show goes on. That is, of course, your super bold fantasy prediction. They're meant to pretty much get wrong, okay? Meant to be bold. I'll tell mine at the end of the show. Get your fantasy football questions in now. You can put it in here in the chat. You can go on Twitter at AndyMC81 as we go through. Now, as we were talking, I've been talking to Johnny Avello for years. Just tremendous. The knowledge and insight. He's as connected as anybody there. So just great information. Now, let's make sure we have the most up-to-date injury info. Because, like I said, I lost Alvin Kamara while I was drinking my coffee. Didn't pay attention. Bad me. Shame, shame, shame. That's going to eat at me the whole freaking day. It's going to eat at me the whole day. Okay, let's see here. Yes. As producer Jamie Thomas pointed out earlier, Christian McCaffrey, true game time decision, folks. Pre-game warm-ups will be needed before making a final decision. Now, that info should be coming to us probably in the next 10 to 20 minutes. So before the show goes off the air, I'm sure we'll find that out. So here's what we want to be doing, okay? For DFS plays, DFS contests, Christian McCaffrey is going to be too expensive. Don't play it. Now, the next question is, who is the handcuff? Now, your mind first jumps to Chuba Hubbard, Canada's own. In time last year, he was okay, but didn't really seize the job. What I was hearing all off season, and he hasn't really done anything yet, was that goal line work. Donta Foreman is going to be the guy. That Donta Foreman. So, if it's me, you want to try to get in these DFS contests. You want the stars, you want the points. But the only way you win anything is if you're able to hit on some of those contrarian points. So if Christian McCaffrey does not go, Donta Foreman, D' Onta, space Foreman. That's the guy I feel should be going ahead of Chuba Hubbard. He's going to be super cheap in DFS contests, and you can fill in some big pieces around him. But I'm thinking that with Carolina, they still need to have that running game effectively. They're still going to have to work that in. You don't want to put too much on Baker Mayfield's shoulders. It's against the Cardinals, um, who've had their own struggles, of course, but at both teams at 1-2 can still pop if need be. So Donta Foreman, I think, is a really good play right now. What do we got here? Both the Eagles game in Philly and the Bills-Ravens game in Baltimore will be dealing with 15 to 20 mile per hour winds and heavy rain. Oh, is this live, James? Oh, that's what we got on the screen. Really? So weather becoming a factor. Okay. Now, you know what? Now, games like this, so it becomes tricky, of course, right? Ball slippery. Josh Allen's going to be able to sling it if you had Hurricane Ian in his face. He's throwing the football. Jalen Hurts has his legs as well. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily affects the quarterbacks negatively. Could it affect the passing game and bringing that level down for an A.J. Brown onto Smith if we're talking Philly? For the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe we up a little bit. Maybe we downgrade Trevor Lawrence a little bit from high-end QB2 with that weather and put some extra juice on James Robinson. Maybe a little Travis Etienne. I'm still buying Robinson more until Etienne shows me he can show up. It could happen this week, but I'm still doing that. I know. Listen, yeesh. Yeah, that's wild. Bad weather in Philly. Really great. Quick side note. I hosted the National Lacrosse League entry draft a few years ago, I guess pre-COVID, in Philadelphia. They had there a couple of years. I think it was called the Xfinity Center. I don't know if any of you have been to games in Philadelphia, but beautiful vicinity. They have all the sports arenas and stadiums right around you. You got the football stadium, baseball, and hockey, basketball right there with this right in the middle, this sports bar building. But you go in and they have different rooms with different sports bar themes. You got like a rock theme, country bar theme, open air. It's a cool spot. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to some questions here. What do we got from Trent_EV? Hi, Andy. DK Metcalf or Dubs or Josh Reynolds? Half PPR. Okay, I'm going to say no Reynolds. I love DK, but he is certainly capped by his quarterback, Geno Smith. Still love DK. I'm going Romeo Doubs. He is starting to emerge. Now, he's still a rookie. Could you still have ups and downs? Absolutely. But he's got the confidence of Aaron Rodgers, and more so than almost any quarterback right now. If you can get the confidence of Aaron Rodgers, he is not afraid to funnel it. Talked about it with Johnny Avello, right? It was the force feed. What were the prop plays usually when Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers? Over-under receptions were set at like 8 every week. He'll feed you. He'll get you the ball. Romeo Doubs is the play there for half PPR. I like that. Garlic Water Monster. Hey, brother. Happy Sunday, Andy. Matt Ryan or Zach Wilson. Oh, why are you? None. What? No. Garlic Water Monster. Both. Boo. I wish I had 2 extra thumbs so I could give those quarterback options 4 thumbs down. No. Here's what you do. Okay, those are terrible options. Those guys are going to ruin your fantasy day. Here's what you do. You go to your waiver wire. I would bet you anything that Marcus Mariota is sitting there. Go get Marcus Mariota now. Go get him. Cut Zach Wilson, Matt Ryan, dealer's choice. Get Marcus Mariota in your lineup today. I talked about it. The Browns, I hope, pray, feel that they're still going to win the game. But Marcus Mariota, I feel, is going to be able to have a day. You have Cordarrelle Patterson. The RPO has really been effective. You have to respect Patterson in that backfield. Mariota has been running more. He's been able to have those 2 big targets. You got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Patterson in the backfield who can also catch, and he can run. Marcus Mariota, I think, is one of the best. Let me see what ownership he's in Yahoo leagues. Just out of curiosity, because he was like 8% when I advised to get him on Tuesday on my video at Andy MC81 weekly waiver wire video. 26% roster. He's going to be there. Go get Marcus Mariota. Don't do Matt Ryan or Zach Wilson, especially too. Okay, here's the thing. So Zach Wilson coming back from injury, right? Okay. Here's what we have to remember. Was Zach Wilson great beforehand? No. Had an interesting offseason, storyline-wise. You get Flacco out. First game back, you're playing Pittsburgh. I know there's no TJ Watt. They're not the big bad Steelers of before, but You still got a guy, Minka Fitzpatrick, who is a ball hawk in every sense of the word. He's a predator. He attacks. I think Zach Wilson's going to have a terrible day. I think like a 0 touchdown or 1 touchdown, 2 interception day for Zach Wilson. And Matt Ryan, Matt Ryan is one of those guys where if he's not throwing 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, he's not giving you a good fantasy day. And you're playing Tennessee. Say what you want about the Titans. It's a division game. Matt Ryan has not hit 17 fantasy points yet this year. And the Tennessee defense, again, maybe not where it needed to be, but it's still good enough. And you still have Jonathan Taylor, who only has 1 rushing touchdown this year. Jonathan Taylor, 1 rushing. Super disappointing for pretty much the consensus first overall fantasy draft pick. There you go. You see on the screen. Like Matt Ryan can still, I don't think he's glue factory quite yet. He's being probably signed in to the factory, but he's not quite there yet. And you beat Kansas City with the blunders last week. So yeah, get Marcus Mariota. Don't chance it with Ryan, and certainly not Zach Wilson. Sorry, certainly not Zach Wilson. Folks, everybody who's tuning in, hello. It's Ultimate Fantasy Football time and Ultimate Fantasy Football show. Make sure you're checking us out, ufsports.com. Click subscribe, click the follow button there. Throw some bits in the jar. We always appreciate that. Gift us a sub. Really appreciate those as well. Follow on Twitter at AndyMC81, at UFF Sports. Make sure you're checking out the Ultimate Fantasy American Football League. See the nice hat in the backdrop there. UFFsports.com/UFAFL. 32 fantasy franchises, 53-man rosters. Closest thing you're going to be mirroring to running an NFL team. Also, our super, super fun college league. I love this league. Ultimate College Fantasy Football League. Just finished up week 5 yesterday. UFFsports.com/UCFFL. Some awesome logos, great merchandise. You can check out the teams, check out the rosters, follow these teams, follow these squads, and jump on in there. So lots and lots of fun in that regard. So make sure you're giving us a follow, checking in, and I'm going to be checking here. We'll go through some game by game. I want to make sure we're getting the most up to date, especially on Christian McCaffrey. Let's see. All right. Latest from Adam Schefter 50 seconds ago. Falcons running back Cordarrelle Patterson active today. I expected that. He was banged up. Jaguars Zay Jones inactive today. Now, Jamie just brought up that weather. This is, of course, a case where you get slippery feet. Christian Kirk, I am pretty certain, is at full health. Let me just double check because he's been the go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence. I believe he is. Yes. Yeah. Now, again, with that weather, you got winds, you got rain. Christian Kirk has been an absolute stud all season long. He's been a WR1 numbers for guys you would have gotten. Where would he have gone in draft? He's the steal of the season so far. And you got Marvin Jones. So maybe some quick passes. I think this is a day for the ground. It's a day for the ground. James Robinson, light him up. All right, let's keep going here through some ones. You got fantasy football questions too, folks. Get them in the chat here. Happy to answer them. Use hashtag AskAndy on Twitter too, at AndyMC81. Hashtag AskAndy. All right. Okay, some Tua news. After that awful incident, Tua is expected to be interviewed early this week in the NFL and NFLPA joint investigation. That was so scary. Hopefully he's not missing too much time in health. Health number one for poor old Tua. Yeah, we know Kamara is out. Dak Prescott, here's some news. You Cowboy owners. Dak Prescott, who had the stitches removed from his surgically repaired thumb and began throwing a football this past week, eyeing next Sunday's game against the Rams for a possible return. So, if you're a Dak Prescott owner, that's good news. I have to say, though, Cooper Rush, and maybe it's because the expectations were so low, did a pretty damn good job. Cooper Rush has done a pretty damn good job of filling in and keeping. Here's the thing. You're not playing Cooper Rush in your fantasy league, but you want the backup quarterback to keep the guy's fantasy relevant. Jacoby Brissett's doing that, right? Cooper Rush is doing that. And when we look today with the Cowboys playing the Commanders, I still like, and I know last week it was a bomb. It was an absolute dud by Carson Wentz against Philadelphia, and the Eagles defense, offense, everything's clicking. I'm avoiding the Eagles if I'm, betting fantasy as much as possible. But I would play Carson Wentz this week, folks. Again, if you're dealing with trouble Garlic Water Monster had the quarterback trouble. I do Marcus Mariota first, and I do Carson Wentz after that. Big bounce back opportunity. A lot of weapons around him. Still with the Cowboys. So here's what we're looking at. Michael Gallup's back, right? Michael Gallup's return, even on a pitch count. I had Noah Brown in a couple lineups. Noah Brown's been a popular kind of fill-in guy. We're not going to play Noah Brown. Okay, Noah Brown's out. No more Noah Brown. Michael Gallup, I don't want to play either. Keep CD in. Dalton Schultz, still questionable. It's still about the running backs. Dallas following the Cleveland model. You have a backup quarterback in. What do? Well, you got two stud running backs in Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. I'd feel fine putting Zeke in an RB2 spot, and I'd feel fine putting Tony Pollard in a flex spot this week. Again, that will change when Dak returns, gets back into form, and if Michael Gallup can stay healthy and get back into a punch, then you can have that formidable option going there. Speaking of Schultz, I have Schultz in 2 of my leagues. Let's see here. Is he still questionable? Let's see. Yep. Okay. Question, but is expected to play. I try to avoid putting him in if you can. I know that the tight end spot is super thin. I know. It's been horrible for years now. So you may not have a better choice than to put Dalton Schultz in and cross your fingers. I don't think he's going to have a great day because after Schultz, if you look at widely available guys on the waiver wire, you got Robert Funyon Tunyon here, who it seems like he keeps knocking on that door, right? Radcat, he's knocking to be fantasy relevant. Not quite there yet. And Romeo Dubs has been taking some targets. He was just shy of 10 fantasy points last week. 7 targets, 6 receptions. That's a good sign. Do I want to play him against New England? Not really. Evan Ingram in Jacksonville again with the weather, and even just in general, Evan Ingram, so much hype his whole career, really. Hasn't lived up to it. Jacksonville, same thing. Hasn't lived up to it. I like Logan Thomas. Mentioned Carson Wentz. Now, Logan Thomas, where are we here? I just want to make sure I got the right. Yeah. So he coming back. Bad week against that week. You got almost a race. The Eagles' defense is phenomenal. It's really good, and it's not going great, right? So for Logan Thomas though, he had week 2, 12.7 fantasy points, right? The target share, he's probably going to need you a touchdown, but what I'm saying is if you need help, Logan Thomas at least gives you a path against the Cowboys that, middle of the pack when it comes to defending tight end. After that, folks, it gets pretty damn ugly. Like, are you going to want to roll with Will Dissly, who, again, super touchdown? I hate playing guys who are touchdown dependent because Dissly is the definition of that. The only 2 out of the 3 weeks has been fantasy relevant. Each of those weeks, he's had 3 targets, 3 catches, and a touchdown. And that just puts him into the double-digit fantasy points. So you don't want to ever try to chance that. Yeah, man. After that, for widely available, oof, you're stuck. So it's your options for guys who are under that 50% roster mark. Best options, I go Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan. And then maybe you do feel more confident and you play Dalton Schultz. Oh, thank you very much, Maria with the bits. Thank you very much, everybody. Hello. Yep, click on, subscribe, click follow, throw it in the jar, give us a sub. Always love that. We're going to make sure we're all up to date. Myles Garrett, as I said, out for the Browns. And it looks like, for those missing who are Chargers DST or defense owners, pass rusher Joey Bosa expected to miss 8 to 10 weeks with a groin tear. The Bosas are so great, they can't stay healthy, just like the Watts. They can't stay healthy. It's almost like they go too hard every play. They cannot stay healthy. It's just a thing. Just a thing for them. I'm keeping an eye on that Christian McCaffrey. Nothing yet. For the Colts, Shaquille Leonard active today. Will make his regular season debut against the Titans. It's a nice little add-on there. Let's just make sure we're getting everything up to date. Set those fantasy lineups, folks. You can get your questions into on here. Ronnie Stanley active left tackle for the Ravens. Okay. Yeah, nothing super up to date there. Okay, that's great. Okay, so we got that. I'm going to get to a couple questions here on Twitter at AndyMC81. Okay, we got at Moses Murphy 17 says, Andy, lost Kamara this morning, need a replacement. Stevenson. So Ramondre Stevenson with the Patriots. CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Chiefs. Akers or Carter. So Michael Carter of the Jets. I'm already playing Green Bay defense, so not as much upside playing Stevenson, but I feel he's my best option. Well, Stevenson, okay, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City, man, like it remains what we expected it was from last year. Okay, it's a committee. Edwards-Helaire hasn't looked explosive. He's looked okay at times, but is it going to surprise you if he gets you single-digit fantasy points, no touchdown? Not really. Akers, oh man, Cam Akers, just the usage by Sean McVay, super frustrating, but it is increasing each week. Let's take a look at the usage increase, okay? So we finally hit double-digit fantasy points in PPR last week, 10.1, but let's look at the rush attempts. So week 1, 3 rush attempts, disaster. Anyone who had him, myself included. Last week, 15 rush attempts, 44 yards. Yards per carry, not great. Rushing attempts last week, 12 for 61 with a touchdown. Now, receptions, no catches that week to the week before. So we know it's all about the ground. And this week you're playing San Francisco, whose defense is always tough. So you have to put him in the lower end of RB2. I do think Ramondre Stevenson is the best play, but you also have to realize that Damian Harris is still there, folks. And they pretty much are splitting the duties. It's a bit of a hot hand situation, and we're still trying to get an angle on, okay, what's the pattern? What's the style of this patchwork New England offense? Offensive coordinator, you got Matt Patricia helping out. It's a bit of a schmoz. Oh, and Mac Jones isn't even in there. You got Brian Hoyer, who very competent backup, and I don't think you missed that much with Brian Hoyer, even at this advanced stage in his career. Knows the team, accomplished veteran. He can distribute the ball well enough. So out of that group you gave me, Ramondre Stevenson, yes, but don't be surprised if we see Damian Harris getting his too, like they did last week. Both guys ate last week, right? Both guys ate last week, so that was pretty good. What do we got? Zay Jones, yes, inactive. Alonzo Bombs 23. Can I see your fantasy football team, please? I can tell you I have 5 teams, so it might take a while, and I don't really have screen share on here. I can tell you one of my teams. Let's see. Give you one of my team. I'll give you one of my undefeated leagues here. I'm Dog Pound North. Okay, it's a half PPR. I got Kirk Cousins at quarterback. I know I got dinged with injuries. I had Prescott and Lance. I have Cortland Sutton wide receiver. Josh Palmer in because I have Keenan Allen, but he's out, so I had to replace him. So I got Palmer in. That's a nice play again. Could be Mike Williams, DeAndre Carter, but Josh Palmer, I believe in. Austin Eckler, I'm doubling up on Chargers. It's against Houston, people. This is a get right week for the LA Chargers. Okay, get right week for the Chargers. And the fact that Bosa's out, maybe that means that Dameon Pierce can get a little more wiggle room. Maybe Houston can score a few more points and force them to push the ball. Justin Herbert did not suffer any setbacks from that rib cartilage injury from the other week. So Dr. Stabby, who took out Tyrod Taylor with that lung puncture last year, has done okay so far. Austin Eckler, I think it's going to be a big bounce back week. I have Nick Chubb. I have Logan Thomas in at tight end because I have Dalton Schultz. So I have to make that decision. Do I want to go with Dalton Schultz against Washington or stick with the other side? I'm going to err on the Logan Thomas side this week. Hope it doesn't burn me. I have Antonio Gibson at a flex right now. And I had Tyler Boyd, who I brought up. And that didn't really go so well for me. Only 2 catches in the Thursday nighter there. Guys on the bench, I have Dameon Pierce. I have Khalil Herbert. And I'm trying to decide here, Khalil Herbert versus the Giants with David Montgomery out, or do I stick with Antonio Gibson? So I'm thinking, actually, you know what? I'm going to do a live lineup adjustment. I'm putting in Khalil Herbert, damn it. Let's go. Right? In New York. Let's do it. Gibson and Pierce on the bench. Oh, yeah. But I'm not taking Eckler out, and I'm not taking Nick Chubb out. So ultimately, what am I going to do? Matt Gay, I have at kicker, and I have the Rams defense against San Francisco, which I could stream another defense, but Rams one are going to be pretty good. It's going to be good enough. What do we got? Even though he's been brutal, would you start Russell Wilson over Trevor Lawrence this week? Ooh, if we're taking weather out of it, I would say no. but we have significant weather that Jamie put up on the screen with 15 to 20 mile per hour winds and rain. It's also head coach Doug Peterson's return to Philadelphia. Should be getting a standing ovation. Got a statue of him out front, Super Bowl champ, right? I'm gonna give Russell one more week to cook. Then I'm kicking him out of the kitchen. I'm kicking him out of the damn kitchen. I have Russell Wilson on one of my teams too. There's nothing else you can say except for catastrophic when it comes to your fantasy football team. Terrible. Part of that's head coach Nathaniel Hackett. He's just been bad. Been bad play calling, bad decision making. The pieces are all there. When will Russell? He's cooking, but you don't want to eat what he's cooking right now, right? You don't want to do that. I'm going to come my danger zone pick in a couple minutes. Put in here or on Twitter at AndyMC81 your danger zone pick today. What is your super bold fantasy prediction? I don't want to hear, Nick Chubb being an RB1. That's not bold. I want to hear your bold fantasy prediction. It's supposed to pretty much be wrong. Your danger zone pick. We'll get to that in a couple minutes' time. Let's make sure we get some more updates here. Make sure we get the most up-to-date info for us when it comes to the injuries and all that good stuff. Okay, I got one here. Actually, an Ask Andy question. Hashtag Ask Andy on Twitter at AndyMC81. Half-point PPR playing against Josh Allen. Already starting Diggs. Should I flex Bateman or McKenzie? And I'm assuming that's Isaiah McKenzie from the Bills. I like Isaiah McKenzie as like a, more of a DFS play. You throw him in, maybe he catches a couple balls. One goes for 60 yards and he gets a touchdown, right? That's kind of what you're looking at for Isaiah McKenzie. Because Stephon Diggs is getting a ton of work, obviously, for good reason. Let's see. Gabe Davis is active. I know he didn't ankle issue, but he is active for the Buffalo Bills. So that further puts Isaiah McKenzie down on the depth chart there. Yeah, any given week, that dude can go. I hate trusting Baltimore receivers if your name is not Mark Andrews and he's a tight end. Because you're either running the ball with Lamar Jackson, handing it off to one of the plethora of backfield of running backs, or you're throwing it to Mark Andrews. Now, the first 2 weeks of the season, Bateman got you some good fantasy production, just under 13, and then just under 19. Last week, a stinker, 4.9. I would say that Buffalo defense is so good, right? But out of the two, I'd say Bateman. I would say Bateman just because he's been more consistent in the offense. He's been used a bit more, right? Question in here. Let's see. All right. From D-Wire number 7. Start 2 full PPR. Gabe Davis, Devonta Smith, Dameon Pierce, or Judy. Okay, let's take Judy out. Unless, again, Cortland Sutton, I think, is the play there. Judy in that Russell offense, man. I'm not there yet. If everything was equal with weather, Devonta Smith really popped last week. The last couple of weeks, we've seen him become more involved because it looked like it was just going to be all about A.J. Brown in Philly, that connection with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. But now Devonta Smith's working his way back in. Dallas Goedert. We're seeing Jalen Hurts really grow as a true quarterback. If the weather's really bad today, do I want to count on the running game? Dameon Pierce. Here's the tricky part. The first week stunk. Not his fault, but the usage and points stunk for Houston. You're going up against the Chargers. No Joey Bosa. Maybe they have a little bit more freedom here. And you got Gabe Davis, and it's a full PPR. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say you go with Dameon Pierce. Okay, I'll put it in this order. Pierce, Davis, Judy, Smith. And Smith is only that low again because of the bad weather. That's the only reason. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, I would stick with him. Okay. Let's just make sure any last-minute injury updates for you. Then we'll get to our danger zone picks. Pop them in there, folks. Again, some of my top waiver wire pickups right now, if you can still get them and need help. Marcus Mariota at quarterback, followed by Carson Wentz. Logan Thomas. Just write that in there. Logan Thomas at tight end. Let's see, anything more from these guys? Nope. Patterson's there. Yep. Okay, nothing new. All right. Danger zone time, people. Okay, we're going to get dangerous. We woke up feeling dangerous this morning. I hope you did. I know I did. Here's my danger zone fantasy pick for today. And it's based all about the only math I know: opportunity equals success in fantasy football. And the opportunity is going to be there for TJ Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions. Yes, Dan Campbell, ready to eat some knees. Eat those knees for Dan Campbell. You're without DeAndre Swift. You're without Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's been absolutely incredible. You're without DJ Chark. So receiver-wise, you're looking at Cephas, Raymond. Okay. One, both, some could go off. But I'm looking at this guy. And by the way, Jamal Williams, who's beginning of the week was owned rostered about 62% of leagues. He's up into the 80s now, obviously. I got him with my last pick in two of my teams in the draft, and in another team, I picked him up off of waivers early in the season because he has a defined role. He's not your regular handcuff. For example, Khalil Herbert playing today, or an Alexander Madison type from Minnesota. Those guys have no relevance unless the starter gets injured. Then they ball out. You have a Kareem Hunt type of situation with Jamal Williams where they have a defined role and they can be flexed, reliable, even with the starter in the ballgame. I think Jamal Williams is going to get a ton of work, especially in PPR. But my danger zone pick is TJ Hawkins. Will be a top 2 tight end in all of fantasy football, whatever format you want. TJ Hawkinson is going to eat today. Dan Campbell can have the kneecaps. TJ Hawkinson can have the football. He's going to get you some fantasy points today. He is not going to be on waiver wires, but he hasn't had a great season at all, fantasy-wise. 5.8, 4.1, 9.3 fantasy points so far this year. I think he gets comfortably into those double digits. Top 2 tight end, TJ Hawkinson, today versus the Seattle Seahawks. Danger zone, book it. Let me know yours. Who is your danger zone pick on Twitter at AndyMC81, hashtag AskAndy, or right here. All right, D-Wire. Oh, we answered that one. Sorry. Okay, good. We got to that one. Got the D-Wire there. That is a tough one, though, when it comes to Devonta Smith. Like, I hate sitting a guy. Keep an eye on the weather. If for some reason something miraculously clears up in the next hour, maybe reconsider. But I'm not loving it. Seattle, who the Lions are playing, have also given up the 8th most fantasy points to tight ends this season. Easy tight end one play for Hawkinson. Again, my danger zone pick will be a top 2 pick right there. So I think that makes a lot of sense. To talk about some start sits real quick for Browns Falcons. Like I said, Marcus Mariota start, Cordarrelle Patterson start, Drake London start, Kyle Pitts start. For the Browns, Amari Cooper, yes. Nick Chubb, obviously. Kareem Hunt, yes. I don't mind DFS only. You want to put a little feeler out for Donovan Peoples-Jones. The looks have been there. He's been involved. The coaches were really talking him up this week in Cleveland as well for the work he's put in. So he might be rewarded. David Njoku's still a bit of a boomer bust type of guy. Broke out huge in that Pittsburgh game. Will that continue? I think it should, but that's a bit more of a gamble there. When it comes to Giants Bears, that's a 1:00 kickoff Eastern. I was getting questions on Daniel Jones. I was getting questions on, what about with Sterling Shepard out in the white? No Giant wide receivers, people. No. Roll up a newspaper, smack you on the nose. No Giants wide receivers. No Giants tight end. The only New York Giant you should have any interest in starting is Saquon Barkley. Period. That's it. Saquon Barkley. For the Bears, we say Khalil Herbert. Yes. Justin Fields. And really, you know what? I think we stick with the 2 running backs. Like, I was hoping Cole Kmet would be able to separate a little bit here with Jimmy Graham being gone. Second-year tight end for Chicago. But he just hasn't. He had 0 fantasy points the first 2 weeks and just 5 last week. And until we see that passing game and Justin Fields get sorted, it's not going to be there. I did answer D-Wire's 7 questions, Jamie. Yes, I did. Yeah. I said go with Dameon Pierce, then Gabe Davis, Judy, and Smith in that order. So I'd say Dameon Pierce first. I think there's a chance he pops today with that growth that we've been seeing there. So for Giants Bears, just the 2 running backs, Herbert and Barkley, and that's it. And speaking of that's it, that's going to be it for me, folks. That's it. Great show. Johnny Avello bringing the heat out of Las Vegas with those DraftKings Sportsbook takes and in-game wagering at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you can have access in your area, Makes it for a ton of fun throughout. So check that out. Make sure, hey, any other game or questions up to kickoff, get to Twitter at AndyMC81. Give me a follow. Hashtag Ask Andy. Make sure before you go, click the notification bell, click follow, subscribe, gift a sub. We always appreciate that. Throw some bits in the jar. Make sure you're tuning in Monday to Friday for Ultimate Fantasy Sports Daily with Dean Millard, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be back with you next Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Go Browns, and good luck for your fantasy football team. Andy McNamara, we will talk to you next Sunday.